Good afternoon or good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 3 of the Seat of Bim gathering. This is stream 2, focused on people are the key to success. We have 3 great speakers today: Gerard Nicholson from GMIT in Galway, Barry McAuley from TU Dublin, and Casey Rutland from Digital Green in Southampton, looking at the different ways of how we engage with people to get them the skills, get them the tools that they need to make construction faster, leaner and greener. And as we move that forward, it's a big focus, not just here in Ireland, not just with CETA, but across all of construction across the globe. And it's how we inspire that demand, how we mobilize the full and the entire bit of the supply chain to make sure the skills are increased across that and move forward. Folks, please keep your questions and answers coming in. We'll have the 3 speakers, then there's a 15-minute session at the end, just after 12 o'clock for Q&A. We want to make that as interactive as possible, to be as stimulating as possible. The 3 speakers, Gerard, Barry and Casey, are here to provide information, but also in receipt of information. So questions, ideas, suggestions for the work that they're doing are gratefully received and can help then drive things forward and help shape the way that research and that moves forward. Without further ado, the first speaker this morning, Gerard Nicholson from GMIT in the Galway campus. Gerard's given us a presentation on the development of gaming technology in the construction industry and educational sectors, opportunities and barriers. Gerard, over to you. Thank you.
Hello, guys. Thanks, Paul. As Paul said, my name is Gerard Nicholson, and I'm a lecturer in the Department of Building and Civil in Galway. Title of my presentation is Deployment of Gaming Technology in the Construction Sector and Education Sector, and obviously I'm going to look at the opportunities and barriers to that. So I suppose one thing to start here is we've only been using Unreal Engine for about 16 months. We've been basically looking at kind of the game mechanics more than the fidelity of it. So the fidelity is going to come with time. Everything you see here was built in the west of Ireland, whether it was someone from GMIT or someone from a collaborating industry company. I believe we do all the small things right. A lot of people talk about the big things, but if you do the small things right, all the big things will come. Today, I'm just going to talk about Unreal Engine and Epic Games, example projects I've worked on, so practical applied applications, barriers and opportunities, obviously, and then I'm actually going to deploy a game to everyone here in the audience, so hopefully that works without hiccups. GMIT is the first educational institute in the Republic of Ireland to become an Epic Games academic partner. I suppose with that, we get free training, virtual visits. We get advice on mega grants as well. So anyone from industry that's interested in this should look at the mega grants if you want to get involved. Curriculum oversight from the team, internships, and we also get free training one-to-one if we bring in links from industry as well. There is free cloud-based GPU computing as well that we get if you want to teach it online. So there's a few things that people might want to consider getting the academic partnership as well. I suppose we need to start back at the start of where we've come from. I suppose when I started in the industry, I was using Mental Ray, which is it's not a real-time render engine, it's a static image you would render. And some of them images might have taken you 2 minutes or to 10 minutes to an hour, depending on the settings you put in there. And that was a very, very slow process. It used to take us about 24 hours on a render farm to actually render out a 60-second clip. But now we can do this really, really fast with the render engines. And the render engines are basically taken from the gaming technology and bringing it into the AC sector. 3 of those here are up here. If I've missed some, I'm not too sure, but these are probably the most popular. Inkscape is a really good tool, especially for people starting out. It's not as expensive as the others, and it just gets you going and up and running, and the features in that are really good. If you're trying to do something high resolution, really good graphics, Lumium's probably the one for you. And over here on the right-hand side is Twinmotion, and that's part of the Epic Games family. And that's the one that I really, really like, because all the features that's in that are really important to what we do. So it's kind of a combination between the 2 over here on the left, and it gives us new features that we can use with Unreal Engine. So if you're not sure what Unreal Engine is, you can see there's 2 different projects here, but it's basically a gaming engine where people develop games. One of the most popular ones would be Fortnite. A lot of teenagers and young people are playing this at the moment, so you may be familiar with it. but that entire game was actually developed in Unreal Engine. So I suppose, why do we use this in GMIT and why do we use it in research projects? And one of the most important ones here is we can actually build all our projects in Twinmotion, which is a real-time render engine, and we can actually dump that into our Unreal Engine system where we can create these immersive games, because Twinmotion is limited in what it can do, and if you want to bring it to that next level, you're probably going to bring it into Unreal Engine. So you can create these immersive virtual worlds and interactive experience easier. It's used in a lot of industries as well, like construction, as I said, training, simulation. One really interesting one is the film and television industry. And the most popular one there is probably The Mandalorian. Everything was done inside in Unreal Engine. And one other reason why we picked Unreal Engine was because of the visual scripting. We're all used to probably Rivet and Dynamo and the visual scripter there. Well, Blueprints is the visual scripter inside an Unreal Engine, and we found that very useful to build the logic and the game mechanics on the projects. Here's just a quick sample of some of the projects we've worked on. So this is kind of an open day type project that we've used. We're also using it for induction to first years. We actually have to use it for second years this year, so because a lot of them haven't been on site. So it's a really interactive way to show the students where the actual different rooms are inside in the building, but also through in open days. This is a project we've worked on as well, where we got research funding, where we're actually linking in Hollow Builder 360 camera views into our actual Epic Games project. The model you see here was built inside in Rivet, and then we're linking in the Hollow Builder into the project. Here is an actual industry project that we worked on with a few different industry partners. This one here gives you a good example of a huge roads project where we can basically free movement around the entire project. We can basically drive around. We can even adjust the lighting on the project and look at the effects of the lighting. We put in the real world values into the lighting system, and you can see the effect of that on the project instantly. We can walk around it. So it's about 40 squared miles of a project, and we can go anywhere in that project, cycle around it if we want. And that has been a really interesting project to work on. This is probably the most interesting, where we linked in the postcodes. So we use REST API to pull the postcodes, postcode information. It takes the XY coordinates, it pulls that information, pulls it into Unreal Engine, and we can go to that location of where that building is. So that's a live updated, and it's kind of like the principles of digital twin as well. So you can use the same methodology. Here's another project over in the US that we've kind of worked on. I think this is just a cool view to show you kind of what you can get from these projects. So this was one where we could show the different routes and corridors on a project and the different examples to some of the stakeholders. So today I'm talking about the deployment of a game, and really what does that mean? So to define that, a game, when you're deploying a game, you need to install it, set it up and run it. And there's a few things you need to understand when you are deploying it during the development. So I suppose where can we deploy these games is a big thing as well. So we can deploy this to a PC, a Windows, Mac, or Linux. You can even link up phones to it. So you can see here someone has an iPhone, and it's actually taking the expressions on the face and applying it to the actual model. So we can animate with the phone as well. We can also add it to tablets if we want, so Android or Apple. And then we have something that's quite new. It's called pixel streaming. We can actually set up a computer inside in the office, and people can actually pixel stream from that item and use the resources on that computer and bring it to your own. So that's a really interesting one. You can also put it in the cloud. So I'm going to do that later. I'm going to put something in the cloud, and I'm going to deploy it to everyone, hopefully in the audience. So the barriers to this, and I will be comparing absolutely everything here to the AEC industry. The first thing is coding. So C++ is the coding language that you need to use if you really want to bring this to an advanced place. We do use visual scripting and blueprints, which translates what we do in the blueprint to a C++, but sometimes you may need to delve into that area. Databases and REST API, if you're trying to get into the digital twin side of things. Development of 3D geometry for games, we need to understand that as well because it works very, very differently. GPU and CPU are really important, especially during the deployment and development. So if we're deploying something, if someone doesn't have the hardware, it's going to cause you issues. A good example of the hardware you have, so I'm talking about the screen. So people might be aware of the PS5, but loads of people are going out and buying it, but they don't actually realize that their TV may not be able to do it. So it's the same thing in industry. We need to understand if we don't have the hardware in place, we can't do that. So if you don't have a TV that can go 4K at 120 frames per second, you're not going to get the full utilization out of what you've bought. Polygon count is another interesting one, and something we have to be aware of inside in games. So when you're building something on an Android device, 90,000 polygons is going to be about where you want it. 2 million for the likes of a PC. And you can see the example here when you go from 200 polygons to 20,000 polygons, the detail you get into. Important geometry can be an issue. Unreal Engine have kind of solved that. We used to have to mess around with our lighting maps. So we use something called Datasmith to bring our information in, and it works really, really well. Gaming ready geometry is important as well because it's completely different to what we're used to in the AAC industry. We have to rig. So if you look at these cars over here, these cars are all rigged. It's something we don't do in the AAC industry. So if you're trying to build something, you have to understand that as well. So a lot of this is down to the skill set I think we need for the AAC industry if we want to delve into this area. So that's all the barriers, but what are the opportunities? I suppose the opportunities here are to, communicate with the next generation in an entirely different way. They're all playing with their friends against 100 people online in all these different scenarios. So they want to communicate to us in a different way, and that's the next generation growing up. We can communicate our design intent to the clients and the public really efficiently. So the example with the postcodes, I think, is a brilliant one because the public can go in, type in their postcode and see what effect that development is going to have on them. Hardware and technology won't be an issue in the future, and this will allow us to have more detail. Unreal Engine 4 is what I use to develop everything you see here. Unreal Engine 5 is bringing out a new technology where you can actually have 100 million pixels on the screen and run it at 100 frames per second. So technology is changing and the clouds is changing as well. And that's going to let us run things really, really easy in the future. So that's the opportunity we have. Eagle 3D Streaming is a good company to deal with if you're trying to deploy this on the web. So I think the guys there are going to share a link with you. So it's called Pixel Stream Link. And basically, this is where I'm going to deploy an actual game on the web. So you can click on that link now and see what way it comes up. Now, there is some limitations to it. You need to use Google Chrome, and I'm using the old version. I'm not going to update it to the new version because I don't want to have an issue later on. But basically, if you click on that link, it'll show you how I'm deploying the game to everyone in the cloud. And it's just a real nice way to look at games. And it's only a simple example. The project you've seen previously that I was working with industry, that was a 40 square mile project. And we could actually pixel stream that. So the applications to this are absolutely huge. So I'm just going to show you what I see. Yeah, I might just let that run again, but have a look at that and see how that works for you. 1 second. Okay, I have a few people to thank because we've got a good bit of funding from different people. So BIM Futures, Teaching and Learning Forum, mega grants from Epic Games, Eagle 3D Streaming sent me on that link. So that's why you're allowed to look at the deploy game. Industry collaborators, RPS, Transport Scotland, and Wills Brothers, thanks to them. Special thanks to Mark Costello. We need innovators like him in Ireland, and it's great to work with him. So hopefully the link worked for you and you can see what it's like. That's my presentation for today. I actually couldn't get it working on mine because I was trying to refresh it here, but hopefully it worked for you. It's limited to 10 people, so you may have to queue. Thanks, guys.
Gerard, many thanks, and finishing ahead of time. That's the power of digitalization.
Yeah.
Listen, before we just go to the next speaker, a quick question for you, Gerard.
Yeah.
Gamification and using this, where do you see the best advantage in the industry?
Well, I showed you that example there with just a simple example of the postcodes and how we can link in data into the models and share it with the public, and then they can see the entire project easily from one place. There's also an opportunity to maybe replicate a website in these gaming engines as well, to allow people to navigate around these items and just easily access the information. And also the next generation is being brought up with this, so we need to get on board with it. And I think it's just a really niche area, and I don't think there's too many people using it enough.
Interesting point, though, Gerard, you made right at the start. This has come developed and housed in the west of Ireland.
Well, that's what I wanted to emphasize, that it's locally built. Everything you've seen was locally built in the west of Ireland.
Excellent. Gerard, many thanks. And we'll come back to you later on in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Cheers.
Our next speaker is Barry McAuley from Technological University Dublin. Barry's going to speak on the new Arise project, which is the new project coming from Horizon Europe. It follows on our Bim Cert work. Barry's going to talk about Arise. It's inspiring demand for sustainable energy skills by providing clear learning interaction, transparency, and upskilling transactions, and the recognition of the qualifications achieved. One of the biggest barriers in getting construction to a green destination is making sure that the skills in the workforce have the tools that they need and those digital tools. Barry, over to yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, just want to it's a PowerPoint showing, sorry. Excellent. That's great. Coming across okay, Paul? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction, Paul. So good afternoon. My name is Barry McAuley, and I'm co-delivering this presentation on behalf of myself and Paul and Andrew Hampton, Eduardo Ribello in Belfast, Met. As Paul just discussed there, this is going to just discuss our recent Horizon 2020 successful winning bid, which is now going to run from September for the next 2.5 years, and it's called the Arise project. And the Arise project is fundamentally based around trying to upskill the construction sector and trying to upskill them in tools that will help them target the energy crisis. So if we look at this infographic here, which I'm sure most of you have seen, some of the most damaging facts on our 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions are attributed to buildings, as well as the talent gap and aging workforce, making it quite difficult to get general contractors in regards to getting them sourced with craft workers and so forth. Europe also faces many impending challenges over the next decade, along with the climate crisis. So to adequately address this crisis, we must develop a skilled and equipped workforce. The green economy has to deliver a better skilled workforce and reduce labour market shortages. This will result in increased productivity and should guarantee a better compliance with deadlines and energy targets. Recent reports from the European Construction Sector Observatory have shown that BIM, as well as other tools, are seen as significant enablers in achieving this. Initially, back in 2018, an initiative involving former Horizon 2020 and Erasmus Plus projects, including BIM Cert, BIM MET, BIM Implement, BIM SED, and NET UBIP, as well as additional vital players in the upskilling of the AE sector and digitisation and sustainability, came together to form the BIM Energy Performance Alliance. In previous work, the BIM MPA has confirmed with measurable results advantages of BIM as an improved enabler for higher levels of sustainable energy in buildings compared to traditional methods. We have also developed and showcased training programs such as BIM Cert to upskill the construction sector workforce in digital construction with a focus on energy reduction. In turn, a selection of partners responded to a bidding call, and as part of this initial funding was made available to focus on building low carbon, climate resilient future, which underpinned the goals of the Paris Agreement and clean energy for all European packages. This resulted in the partners that you see here. putting forward a bid and winning the bid. And as you can see in here, we have partners from Denmark, Macedonia, Italy, the Republic of Ireland, Portugal. So we have quite an elective selection of partners across Europe. Ultimately, Arise's goals is to drive the learning process, and to do this by monetizing skills development and learning exchanges with a digital system based on skills recognition rather than accreditation. So the training and transaction system developed by the project will reward learners as they achieve competence at a certain level with a cryptocurrency for skills exchange. This is called Certcoin. This innovative currency of skills and learning of the construction sector, embracing today's digital transformation benefits. So ultimately, Arise's approach and proposal is to improve and increase the collaborative skills of practitioners at all levels regarding the use of BIM and other technologies. These skills, they should be able to enable and enhance the sector's ability to deliver energy efficient buildings, which should eventually lead to the scaling up of implementation of new construction processes, as well as potentially more significant impacts would apply to such things as retrofitting of existing building stock. In order to do that, what we need to do is we need to stimulate demand, and we have come up with a 4-step process to do that. The 4th step involves a harmonization of activities performed with partners of previous EU projects, hopefully foreseeing different actions. This step will also involve association of training content previously developed by the partners and new Arise material to a commonly agreed recognized set of learning outcomes. Step 2 will involve the development and deployment of a digital delivery system for CPD type recognition pathways and training system. A suite of modules providing discrete micro-credentials will be developed, and this will enable the learner to acquire the skills and recognition needed to meet the job requirements, while also providing a vocational mobility. Arise will also develop an on-demand mobile-friendly training portal for digitization and sustainable energy in the construction sector. The platform and tools will assist individuals, also SMEs, large companies, public authorities to engage in digital energy skills maturity. Step 4 involved the creation of a cryptocurrency of skills and learning in the digital built environment, and this will be enabled by blockchain technology to ensure a trustable CPT digital awarding. Certcoin will modernize the digital transformation of the construction sector. It's a digital asset designed to stimulate engagement and quantify skills development and learning. So the purpose of this is to provide a model for providing professionals with a mutually recognized, comparable and accepted leverage for their skills, and also to enhance vocational employment. Arise's approach and proposal is to improve and increase the collaborative skills of practitioners at all levels regarding the use of BIM and other technologies. These skills will enable and enhance the sector's ability to deliver energy efficient buildings and will lead to the scaling up and implementation of new construction process. To do this, an initial skills maturity level analysis will be used as a method to diagnose and reward skills development. This will enable the development of several levels of maturity of applied digitization. For independent verification, these recognitions can be registered with a blockchain technology, resulting in an interactive learning business account. This will enable a control track that can never be modified. Completing modules allows the Certcoin to be claim given, and this will underpin maturity and build up a portal for users to promote their successes. Data traceability will be unique digital IDs for each user, integrated into blockchain, which will protect individual digital experiences. Arise has put together a 6-step methodology. They will facilitate mutual recognition of energy skills and qualifications in the construction sector, develop a maturity level based digitization, including classification of energy skills, underpin national, regional and local initiatives to raise awareness of benefits of sustainable energy skills, provide support and training the public authorities to potentially develop new legislative frameworks, establish cross-sectional partnerships and collaborations to raise awareness and demand for good energy practice, and also start initiatives to reinforce links between skills education and energy performance. So in order to achieve this methodology, the project will measure the current level of energy and digitization, skills maturity, knowledge, and understanding within the built environment sector. This will result in 3 benchmarks: 1, an EU skills benchmark; 2, an consortium benchmark; and 3, within the BIM PA. These benchmarks will enable development, hopefully, of a task-based qualification framework that will enable a digitization transformation pathway. This framework will be hosted on a gamification type platform, so that's why Gerard's previous presentation was quite interesting. The RISE project will develop a framework to align training modules with potential CPD certification systems and also prepare guidelines for key market drivers. Some of the key challenges that we see is potential low numbers of participants in program trials. We hope we might be able to overcome this by extensive communication and dissemination activities, and as well at a more kind of governmental level, the range of applicability and recognition achieved, and as well as a lack of government mandates. So it'll be all up to the individual partners to potentially lobby their public sector bodies, and in order to find a way of disseminating and trying to validate this cert kind as a potential way of recognition, especially outside of the platform. So in summary, ARISE will utilize a circular economy approach, specifically utilizing digital skills simulation and delivery across the entire building life cycle and assets to decarbonize and complete an energy cycle. It represents a multifaceted approach to tackle the carbon footprint of the construction sector. It's a pioneering training scheme and a power socio-economic cross-sectional influencer, affecting the multiple sectors of education, industry, market, and policy by delivering a dynamic training and market uptake model. So we've only kicked off there in September, and we have 2.5 years to implement the ARISE platform. So we're quite early. So hopefully in future presentations, I'll be able to provide an update of the progress of the ARISE Horizon 2020 project. Thank you very much for your attention. Yeah, Paul, I'll pass back over to you.
All right, many thanks. As with Gerard, also ahead of time, which is good because it leaves us then a time for interaction, hopefully for the audience then to be stimulated. Barry, as a very proud Meath man, and addressing you, what's the difference in ARISE and previous EU programs? How is ARISE going to deliver a difference into the skills in the workforce?
Yeah, I think what ARISE offers here, and the key word is it's collaboration across multiple EU projects. So there's been a number of different projects that have, I suppose, addressed and attempted different facets of the training, between accreditation to material to targeting blue collar workers. What we represent here is a platform where all of these partners can come together and can work, and we can kind of start finding gaps in previous projects, develop material. And also with the blockchain technology, what we're doing is starting to find a different way of accrediting and recognition of skill sets. You know, a lot of people unfortunately don't have the time to go off and do, 4 evenings, 2 evenings a week for a month. Or even, your larger postgraduate specific courses, or even might find it difficult to even take up a 3 or 4 day course in a training center. This offers an alternative just-in-time training, micro-credentials that will suit the different skill sets, so you can dip in and dip out while continuously to build that third kind, which hopefully within the 2.5 years we can find a way also to really drive across the importance and the difference in that. So yeah, it's just a completely alternative way and a work in trying to just revolutionize, I suppose, these micro-credentials.
And the strength of the BIM Energy Performance Alliance, Barry, across Europe, how is that going to help roll the project out?
Well, if you look at the BIM EPA, we have, which Paul was the founding member of, in all fairness, there are an absolute eclectic number of partners across multiple different organizations, multiple different jurisdictions, coming from all the way to Eastern Europe, to Central Europe, and even up into the Scandinavian. So what we do is we have a quite significant outreach where we can target all the different markets. And obviously the more diffusion we have in regards to the different markets, the more that we can spread the third kind, and the more then we can actually offer that digital passport, where maybe we can kind of go into different countries, and this third kind would be recognized because of the partners within the BIM EPA pushing in their area.
Excellent. Barry, many thanks. That was a loaded question, which leads us nicely into our next speaker, Casey Rutland, because it's not just about delivering in your own country, it's making sure we create a level playing field for everybody to engage, but also then for the vocational mobility, so those people can move and be able to then deliver the green construction across Europe. Our next speaker is Casey Rutland from company Digital Green in Southampton. I'll declare my age here. My fondness for Southampton was many years ago when Larry McMenemy was the manager of the football team. Many of the audience here probably don't even know who he was, but another useless fact was he was a member of the Coldstream Guards before he took up professional football. So those of you that are hoping for football and maybe a bit too old, it's never too late. Casey's the presentation is on Building Smart BIM certification program. Casey, over to yourself. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Paul. Thank you to CETA for the opportunity for us to present this here. I'll do a quick intro to me in 1 second, but I should probably outline that I'm taking the place of Phil Reed from Man and Machine, who was originally due to present this. Phil is the education and upskilling lead from the UK Bim Alliance and Building Smart UK and Ireland. Nevertheless, you have me today. This is me. I am as well as running my own digital transformation company. Historically, I'm an architect. I'm also the vice chair of the UK BIM Alliance. With that role comes the role of chair of Building Smart UK and Ireland. I'm also sitting on the drafting committee B555, writing standards relating to the digitalisation of the built environment, and the founder and compere of BIM Open Mic events that happen all around the world. So the intent of today is to run you through a description of the professional certification and how it was developed and the timescales relating to when people will be able to become certified. So in terms of the UK BIM Alliance, our work is for the industry, by the industry. The UK BIM Alliance are made up from practitioners out there in the industry doing and delivering every day. And we're creating guidance to help the built environment sector digitalise. So we're helping people take their first fundamental step on their transformation journeys. We're promoting BIM as business as usual. We're looking to transform and future-proof the way the industry works, bringing in and enabling other such things like achieving sustainability targets, achieving infrastructure change, achieving the way we want to work, and enabling businesses to make use of digital twin related technologies and results to better their individual companies. Building Smart is a worldwide industry body that are driving the digital transformation of the built asset industry. They have a commitment to delivering improvements across and throughout the industry by the creation and adoption of open international standards. The Building Smart Professional Certification Programme enables learning organisations to educate and certify individuals according to a recognised global learning framework. So where Barry's just been mentioning a lack of potentially consistency in standards across training and certification skills that are required for industry digitalisation, this is one step towards achieving that. It's important to note this is an individual certification and not a company certification. What we have seen is lots of companies being certified to say we've got the capabilities to be able to do certain things, but we all know companies are made of people. And it's important that those people have the right skills and can demonstrate that they have those skills to be able to deliver those projects for those companies. So in terms of the certification program itself, it shouldn't drive any commercial gain for any specific certification or training providers. It doesn't lock anyone in to one or other service provider. It embraces everything to do with Building Smart and their professional certification overall program. It has industry-wide engagement, and particularly in the UK and Ireland, from the UK BIM Alliance, from British Standards Institution, from Building Smart, and from the Centre for Digital Built Britain. It's a strategy for defining and developing a level of digital competence for UK BIM framework delivery, which is basically the ISO 19650 suite of documents with a regional annex. Similar can be said for the Irish market also. The programme has these following objectives, and that's to support the standardisation of open BIM training content, to support the standardisation of UK BIM framework training content, to support the standardisation of UK and Ireland specific guidance training content, to enable the recognition of approved training organisation, and enable the recognition and testing and qualification of individuals. In terms of benefits to training providers, it enables you to kickstart course content development using the Building Smart's body of knowledge, which is given to people once they have signed up. It ensures that courses are up to date and reflective of best practices around the world. You can benefit from the learning guidelines and support mechanisms from the local chapter and global ways of working. And you have the ability to brand your course as Building Smart registered and yourselves as approved training providers. In terms of the benefits to individuals, it's standardized training content based on the latest international standards and best practice. It's globally recognized as a qualification. It's a mark of quality assurance. There's a simple, fast, secure online testing and qualification process. So it works in our current environment, it works physically, and it enables individuals to demonstrate across all their CV and social media to say that, yep, I've got the abilities to do these particular things practically. And we're engaging the industry in the right things, irrespective of your role, making sure that the information that we're sharing across those individual roles and disciplines and domains is to ensure the information is interoperable. So the value of the data is real, make sure that people can create, consume and share information reliably. In the UK, we have the Transforming Infrastructure Performance and the Information Management Mandate that was published last week, which really does focus on the ability to exchange interoperable information. We have the Golden Thread of Information, which is born out of Grenfell, a project that looks at how we share, currently how we share information for fire and life safety and structural integrity. That's an important piece of work that's out for comment and draft at the moment. And then we have the UK BIM framework with Uniclass, IFC and COBE as the foundation to enabling all of those things to be able to happen. In terms of the types of certification, we've mentioned already that there is a company certification, and that's accredited certification bodies that say that an organisation has the systems and processes in place to enable them to deliver certain projects in a certain way. Then we move on to the personal or individual qualifications. There is an individual knowledge and understanding, which is a foundational knowledge, and then there's practitioner knowledge, which demonstrates that you can actually do a certain thing and can demonstrate it as such. And those are the things we're going to be focusing on in today's session and in the future. And we're not doing this alone. This is something that we're building on well-established educational principles. In terms of this, we're applying, or the Building Smart International is applying Bloom's digital taxonomy in terms of the learning process, about remembering, understanding, applying, analysing, evaluating and creating. So I'm not going to read out everything that's on screen right now, but essentially we need to get the foundation pieces done first to enable us then to be able to deliver the next level of training for individuals to explain that they are practitioners. So this is what we're going to be doing. The foundation programs you can see at the bottom of the slide. We are just gearing up in the UK and Ireland to enable us to offer the basic foundation program. There is also globally a COBE module, which is available already, and we'll be offering that also. There are other modules you see there relating to owner-operator, contractor designer, and other roles. They are in progress. Some of them have started, some of them are not yet started, but there will be additional modules specific to individuals' roles to enable them to say, I am a certified professional in this particular role. But as it says, we're initially focused on the foundation. In terms of alignment, obviously I've mentioned in my introduction that I'm Vice Chair of UK BIM Alliance and Chair of Building Smart International. I guess that's where, in terms of people, there is an overlap. We have the UK BIM, Building Smart UK and Ireland essentially sits within the UK BIM Alliance. We have many of the same people, but also our focus on the Building Smart side of things is to look at the technical, to look at Open BIM, and to look at the certification program and offer that through this UK BIM Alliance vehicle. So we're essentially one and the same thing with different emphasis on work. The UK BIM Alliance then has its connections with the British Standards Institution and the Centre for Digital Built Britain. And as a tripartite agreement, we have created what we call the UK BIM Framework. And that's the umbrella form for how we deliver BIM in the UK, according to the government requirements. On the left-hand side here, we have Building Smart UK and Ireland connecting through to the Building Smart International organisation and 26 global chapters around the world who we can all lean upon and gather their experience and influences and generate a good set of training guidance and training modules relating to Open BIM. So in terms of the guidance, we're looking at basically taking what is the UK BIM framework and the timeline we've gone through for that, adding Open BIM to enable us to work interoperably between different platforms, different clients, different services, different use cases, and applying Bloom's taxonomy as an overlay to say, right, this is what people need to know as a basic foundational level, and then in the future developing practitioner skills that we can start to use and deliver. So the UK BIM Alliance recommends that individuals that want to take an educational program take a course that embodies both of those things, so the UK BIM framework and Open BIM. And we've ensured that via the UK and Ireland steering committee in developing the body of knowledge is that when it's launched, that the UK and I version of our professional certification scheme fully aligns to that framework and its published learning outcome frameworks. So in terms of the assessment development, you've seen the organisational structure. Learning outcome framework modules 1 to 5 come from Building Smart International and the chapters around the world who've contributed to the modules that are created to say these are the things that you would need to deliver to an individual to ensure they understand what Open BIM is. In the UK BIM framework, as I mentioned earlier, Phil Reed from Man and Machine has led the work from a group of specialists to determine module 6. And module 6 is the regional module. So what around the world in the professional certification scheme level, modules 1 to 5 are consistent throughout. Module 6 regionalizes that training program and fills the gaps for any particular needs throughout the UK and Ireland. So one plus the other, individuals can become certified to deliver BIM and Open BIM in terms of the UK BIM framework. So the certification then, in terms of content, modules 1 to 5 cover Open BIM, they cover IFC and certain elements of the ISO 19650 suite. And that's being developed, as I said, by Building Smart International and their professional certification scheme. The content within module 6 would look to be much more comprehensive, but it really does fill the gaps of what's not in modules 1 to 5. So we've got items relating to the UK BIM framework and all of the learning outcomes that are published on ukbimalliance.org, or sorry, ukbimframework.org. The national annex for the UK, it's not yet updated for the Irish market, but it can be very easily. I don't think there's anything more onerous than what's in the UK annex there. Government soft landings, construction playbook, transforming infrastructure performance that was published last week, construction 2025 and Uniclass 2015. So there's a lot of gaps to be plugged that we've gone through a huge amount of work, 18 months of authoring to generate the learning outcomes that are required to meet the needs. So that will then give us a UK BIM Alliance and Building Smart UK and Ireland professional certification foundation level, which is quite an upscale. So going back to this basic foundation level, we need to ensure that we've got that basic level covered. These are available from the Building Smart International website, so you can go there and download the learning outcomes. But these are the basic learning outcomes, module 1 to 5, and module 6 there is completed in its shortest form. These are just the title headings. There is what we call a body of knowledge that sits behind these, which is much more substantial. Also been authored in 1 to 5 by the international market and in module 6 by the UK BIM framework and their team. So as we said before, one of the benefits to a training provider is that once you've signed up, you will receive the body of knowledge and you can start to generate your training course content based on this body of knowledge. As far as the application process goes, we have Building Smart UK and Ireland as the chapter that will offer this and signpost you to various different training providers. But the training providers will come to us and have done in the first tranche of providers, and the application packs will go out by the end of this week, which will then be approved or otherwise. They will then be, through that process, be designated as approved training providers. Then we have the students who will then join one of those approved courses. Depends how each provider will formulate their courses, but either the cost of the course will include the exam or there'll be a separate exam fee afterwards, but the training provider will issue the exam codes. The student will then go to the Building Smart International exam portal. They'll take that exam and then pass or otherwise. The success of the training provider and the quality of their courses will be judged based on the number of students that pass the exam from the portal. So there is a feedback loop. If one provider is providing student or submitting students to the exam portal and none of them pass, then Building Smart International will have a word in the background and ensure that their training delivery meets the right requirements. So in a nutshell, what we're looking to do is as I said, the secondary application packages will go to the first tranche of training providers that we've selected and been through the introduction process with. That will go out by the end of this week. We're looking to have the first courses able to be delivered before the end of this year. That does very much depend on the training provider generating their courses. So it may well be into next year when other training courses are launched, but they will be able to offer those courses before the end of this year. So that was a very quick run through, but thank you very much. Please, if anyone is either interested in taking a course or becoming an approved training provider, get in touch with me. Details are on the screen now, or you can do it through CETA, who know how to get hold of me.
Casey, many thanks. And you probably have answered my first question is, how many training providers have you lined up already in Ireland or in the UK to cover both jurisdictions? We have a total of 7 so far. That is more than we wanted, but there is going to be many, many more. The reason we keep it small is that in this first tranche, we are learning and they are learning. So we want to make sure that all the systems are in place, stress test our backup systems to make sure everything's slick and seamless. We are already, as I said, if you're interested in becoming a training provider, get in touch with me now. We've got the first group going through that process, so we can start to bring in a second group as soon as possible. Casey, excellent. Folks, we have a few questions coming in now from the audience. We're going to take the next 10 minutes just to go over these. And the first question will be to you all, but we'll start with Gerard first is, in the world of big data in the construction, is the translation of that data into informed decision-making. How would your gamification, Gerard, help smooth that pathway or make it easier for the user?
Well, I suppose what a lot of people are looking at the moment is digital twin and how we can use that. Now, there's different layers to digital twin, so we have to be aware of that. But with gamification, you could simulate different activities to see the effects of that on your project. Now, we're kind of at the early days of it, but you can see there's loads of potential using gamification to basically simulate these activities and see the effects of it on your project. And obviously, if you link in IoT sensors, you can apply those scenarios to the real world and see what effects they have as well. So there's 2 kind of ways to look at it.
Barry, the same question to yourself. How do we take that data and turn it into informed decision-making on site?
Well, I think keeping the focus on the Arise project, Paul, the best way to do that is to have personnel and skilled people that can actually understand the data and what data that they're looking for, that it's not an overload of information, and that we actually streamline it to be usable for the people that are looking at it. So when focusing on the Arise project again, one of the key outputs of this project is the upskilling of not just your larger contractors or the people higher up on the construction chain. It's kind of going down and looking at the people out on site and understanding that they have the skill set, they have the knowledge, they know what they're looking at, they know what they're looking for, and that they can kind of go through all of these get to a place in the data or the model or wherever platform it may be, that they can use that effectively to make better decisions. And that's what it's about having the data to make better decisions.
Thank you. And Casey, the same to yourself. How would Building Smart then handle that or work with that to make that process more streamlined?
Well, I think one of the things that we're seeing a lot of organizations suffer with is data bloat. So receiving a lot of data and not necessarily knowing what to do with it. And really it's about democratizing the right information. So turning data into information with context. And bring that back to a building smart side of thing, or even an ISO 19650 BIM process, you've got to understand your use case first. Why are you exchanging information, for what purpose and for what reason? And in that way, defining that through the use case management tool that Building Smart International have, or understanding how you specify the exchange of information to ensure that it's interoperable throughout a process, really means that the right person is getting the right information to make that decision on. No one likes to look through pages and pages and pages of an appendix of Excel spreadsheets or whatever it happens to be. What they want is a dashboard that says, this is the question you asked, based on this data that's in the appendix, is something that might help your decision making. And that's quite an easy thing to do. And we're seeing, even now, with a simple what we used to call BIM level 1, managing your documents and making them accessible to people. That is making a huge difference to people. You take that down to the object level, providing the right data for the right use case, and it becomes hugely, hugely powerful.
That brings us on to the next question, Casey. It's almost as if we have rehearsed this. Question in, it says, in the world we live in, we're engulfed with data and too much data. How do we use, when we start with yourself and we're going with the reverse order, how do we use Building Smart to give the worker in the field the skills they need to do the job without all the other additional padding?
Well, the primary role for Building Smart as an organisation is to promote structured data and interoperability. And whether we're talking about gaming engines, whether we're talking about digital twins or dashboards or whatever there is, if the information we're providing and creating as an industry is structured in the same way, it's really, really easy to create an app that can get access to it. So it's about creating that consistency of information throughout the industry. And that's what Building Smart is there promoting. That's what the ISO 19650 process enables and walks through on a project level. And it's really about understanding, as I said, use cases are the next big focus, I think, because a lot of people are just exchanging 3D models, databases, whatever they happen to be, specifications, without a real understanding of what's the use case, what's the purpose of that information. And I think once we get to that level of maturity, which isn't too far away, there's lots of people doing it already, it really does start to become much more powerful and controllable.
Excellent. Barry, similar question. How will the RISE project, building on BIMcert, give the worker in the field the skills they need to do the job they're doing that day, and not just be skills focused, but to give them what they need to do?
Yeah, well, I think what we need to do and what we plan to do is an initial maturity analysis. So we're planning on the RISE project to do a benchmark, and an honest benchmark, and realistically kind of look at where past RISE and 2020 projects were successful and where they failed. And within that, there's lessons to be learned. And some of that is within looking at the benchmarks of where we are within the EU in regard to current program skills, where we are within the consortium, and where we are within industry. And once we look within and we get an idea and we talk to the industry, we'll actually find out what the industry want, what you need, and suppose what they're missing. And that we can do then is we can start focusing our training towards that sector. That specific niche, and we plan to have a number of pilot projects, a number of training events, the test materials in a continuous recycle or cycle event, an iterative process, and hopefully by the time we get to that end goal, which is still 2 years away, that we will have exactly what we need in regard to not what I think as an educator people out on site need to make their jobs better, but what they actually do need. And by kind of that open channel of collaboration, communication that we have across the whole of the partners, we should be able to achieve that. And I believe that the models that we're proposing and the models that we put in place will be specifically tailored towards, for example, site workers and what they need and what they don't need. As Casey alluded to, they don't need reams and reams of information model. You don't need kind of renders. You don't need these huge fabulous walkthroughs. You need to just maybe simply click onto an item within the model, see the properties within it, and kind of extract what they need to do their job, and then maybe have an understanding of where the impact is down the line. And if they don't kind of, like, for example, there's a great one created called CanBim by Rafa Sachs, which is a simple enough tool, but it kind of allows the workers to look on the screen and they're able to kind of see, for example, sequencing the offence, where there might be kind of backlogs, where there might be logistics issues, what will happen if they don't finish their job, where that'll impact, and potentially where they can start immediately once they're finished their job without impacting someone else's. So it's something along the lines of that, obviously, but just putting the power back into the people, the guys out inside, putting it into their hands.
Thank you, Barry. Gerard, yours interests me the most because all of us on this call, whether you like to admit it or not, we buy a piece of equipment or a video recorder, whatever it is, and it comes with a big instruction manual, as Casey talked about. Nobody opens it, nobody reads about it. You plug it in straight away and you try to learn as you're doing it. Surely gamification and the rule that you're talking about there would help short circuit that on-site installation of a new product and make sure not just it's installed, but installed properly and meeting all of the energy performance targets it's supposed to achieve.
Okay, I think if we look at my generation, I know some of them can't even change a light bulb. So, and I've met those type of people. So I think really with gamification, we can really simulate in different modes. Now, augmented reality is one, and there's a lot of different companies looking at like Volkswagen, JCB, and they're looking at how they can simulate how to carry out maintenance on those pieces of equipment using augmented reality. So highly skilled tasks where low skilled workers can carry those out. And I think that's one area where we could bring that to the site and would help people, especially people who are looking for people to carry out maintenance that are low skilled.
Excellent. So we're now being able to show how we use the different tools to get to the workforce to do the job better.
Yeah.
One of the biggest targets in Europe, and Barry referred to it there, showing that curve, where build up skills, the European initiatives have looked at skills, looked at trying to stimulate the skills and making sure the construction gets greener, is how do we get the energy performance figures into the construction? Barry, we'll start with yourself. How will Arise look to reduce the carbon footprint of construction and play its part in greening what is the second biggest contributor of greenhouse gases in all industries?
Well, look, it's that kind of upskilling of I keep going back, but that kind of upskilling of supply chain. It's kind of giving them the power in their hands to access the data to understand simple, for example, just simple figures, understanding, maybe it could be a simple analysis of of the model, kind of giving out outputs, in CO2, kind of understanding where they really come in and how they affect the supply chain, how they affect that kind of iterative process, and making them see through digital tools what they can do different at their point in that supply chain, and what they can do to make other people's lives more easier, and how they can impact there. And because that's what it's going to be about. It's going to be about, at that point, how they can impact it. And it's giving them the power, which is available through some of the wonderful digital tools that we have available. Casey and Gerard went into detail as if, what's here at the moment. It's only going to expand. It's only going to improve. One of the tough things about being an educator is in this particular space is that when you have your head wrapped around something, you come back after summer and then suddenly there's kind of new developments, there's new updates, and you're kind of go, Christ, is there ever a standstill point where I can actually get my head wrapped around this and, not have to keep developing my notes and my skill set? And there's not, and that's the game you're in, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But it's just kind of getting it back down into the supply chain and showing them exactly where they can impact on this kind of process.
Casey, the same to yourself. We're working with Building Smart in Italy through our IBIEMI partners, developing an energy performance module, which will be fitting into the Building Smart. How do we then translate that to make sure construction gets greener and meets the net zero 2050 targets?
Yeah, just quickly, I know we're running out of time. I think one of the things that we need to know is that there is currently a 30% performance gap between as designed and as built, and on average across most buildings. And I think one thing digital does in democratizing this information is add transparency to that. It enables people to understand how things should be performing, and then measure how well they are performing. And I think that's, without going into too much detail, that's probably a good start to be able to say, this is what it should be doing, and this is what it's actually doing. Then there's all the discussions about procurement and how things are changed, respecified, supply chains, and all those things that we've got to discuss to make sure that things are built as they were intended.
Excellent. Gerard, over to yourself. How do we use gamification to close that 30% performance gap?
Well, I think in gamification, you can simulate the different activities, as I said. So a lot of people are looking at the applications of, I suppose, digital twin in the construction sector, and how that can we can simulate those different activities and predict what's going to happen. I suppose, as Casey said, people are still applying these gamification systems in different ways, and we're still at early days. So let's see what comes out from that.
Folks, finishing on that, one thing as Gerard said, Casey said, and Barry said, it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. It's going to take everybody collaborating together, sharing the gamification platforms, sharing the modules, building smart, sharing the tools built by Arise, BIM Cert, and BIM EPA, and working in cohesion to get a greener construction and a greener construction footprint across all of the value chain. So many thanks to Gerard Nicholson, GMIT, Barry McAuley, Technology University Dublin, Casey Rutland, Digital Green. Hopefully this afternoon's session was excellent. You've got something from it. People are the key to success. Any solution we have must be people focused. On that, many thanks to Shannon and the CETA team for facilitating the 3-day event and making sure we're part of this today. Also thanks to Patrick O'Neill, who's the IT man behind it all. He told me he was from Ballyhale, Shamrock, but he's actually not. He's from October, but he has to claim he's from Ballyhale because everybody knows them as the better hurlers. And that's how life moves forward. It's all about people, getting to know your workforce, give them the tools that they need. Barry, the paper that was written by the four of us, when does that come out and get published? You're on mute at the minute, Barry, on mute.
Sorry, Paul, I think the proceedings will be released in the next 2 weeks from the conference. So it should be available in the next 2 weeks, I think. So
folks, you'll have the presentations from today through CETA, and the paper from the conference will be there. Looking forward to working with Casey, Gerard in the future. Now that we have contact made, let's keep the move going. Many thanks, folks, and enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy day 3 of the CETA workstream. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.